Welcome to Friday Night Ghost Frights. This is Haunted Road Media, and I'm your host, author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. A series of real, true experiences and encounters with the paranormal and the supernatural. Ghost tales that may frighten you in the depths of the night. Some may not believe the things I'm about to describe, but I assure you that everything I'm about to tell you is absolutely true. It is up to you, dear viewer, as to whether you believe me or not. Fox Hollow Farm in Westfield, Indiana, was the home of the infamous serial killer Herb Baumeister, who reportedly murdered 11 men and may have killed an additional 9 more. Some even suspect the numbers could be more than that. He murdered most of his victims right in his own home, in the pool area, most of them with a pool hose that was nearby. He dismembered them in the basement so that he could easily carry them out to the backyard into the woods, where he discarded them, buried some, others he just threw back there. Herb was a married man with a couple of children, but his MO was to scour the gay bars when his family went out of town and lure men back to his luxurious house with drugs. This went on for years, and on one particular occasion, his son actually found one of the skulls out in the woods, and Herb blamed it simply on an old science prop that he had discarded into the woods. Of course, this was far from the truth. When the heat was finally starting to come down on Herb, he fled to Canada, where he was actually discovered by a police officer under a bridge. She didn't really understand who he was, but she did note that in his back seat, he had large piles of videocassette tapes. To this day, those videocassette tapes are missing. Nobody knows where they were, but his wife did note that he used to keep a collection of videotapes in the basement. Herb committed suicide up in Canada and was never actually brought to trial or convicted for his crimes. Thousands of human bones have been discovered in the woods in the creek behind his old house, and to this day they are still discovering more bones back there. In fact, when I was just there in March for an investigation with Society of the Supernatural, the current owner had just taken a fresh box of bones down to the police station. With such horrific events, it does leave a dark stain upon a property. And during our investigation, we felt the heaviness and the oppression in the basement of that house. I will just cover a few brief details here of what we experienced, but you may actually watch full investigation footage at the Society of the Supernatural YouTube channel. In March 2016, I, along with Dave Spinks and David Weatherly, who make up Society of the Supernatural, ventured into the large estate of Fox Hollow Farms to investigate this haunted site. A storm was beginning to brew outside while we investigated around the pool area, and Dave and David picked up a number of EVPs and other voice phenomena in that area. I elected to use a trigger object, the actual pool hose that was used as the murder weapon. Why such a hose is still there, we don't know, but it is. And I held on to that while conducting my session. We didn't want to bring Herb into the picture, so we did not taunt him, as the three of us felt we may have liked to have done given the atrocities of his crimes. Because this house is actually still lived in by a family. But what we did note was that while I was trying to interact with the victims and I was holding that hose, I got absolutely no activity. Nobody from the other side wanted to approach me while I was holding that hose.
And I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that he lured you in here and did these things to you. But I can tell your story. I can help you. If you can talk to me.
Outside near the woods is an area in which some have seen a man in a red shirt walking into the woods. However, he has no legs. An apparition, perhaps, of one of Herb's victims. When we set up out there for our investigation, after we had concluded inside, we started picking up numerous light anomalies all throughout the trees in the woods. Far different from the lightning that we were seeing off in the distance, which was very distinct.
I'm going to walk down there and I'm going to say if there's any victims, come up here and talk with us. And I'm going to walk right back. Ask them to tell them that name. Ask for that name.
And that was lightning back there.
Well, the wind started kicking up and the Light anomalies became numerous, and soon our live feed that we had been hosting just completely cut off. We decided then to conclude our investigation offline in what is known as the apartment, where much activity has been witnessed. While there, we witnessed with our own eyes light anomalies coming from down the hallway and into the kitchen area. I ventured out into that direction on my own and spotted a light anomaly right above my head. Perhaps what is one of the craziest experiences I've ever had as a paranormal investigator happened in that apartment as we were wrapping up. We were starting to put our equipment away, and suddenly the EMF detector that I was holding in my hand, which had been silent the entire time we had been up in the apartment witnessing the light anomalies, started going off like crazy. We turned the EMF detector on and off, and it still kept going off wildly. We walked around even though we had already swept and picked up no EMF readings earlier while we were there, but this still kept going like crazy. We started to ask questions again like we had during our EVP session that we had just conducted up there. And then it started to pour rain outside, the rain beating against the roof of the apartment. We were a bit upset because we knew that we were going to be soaked trying to lug all the equipment back out to Dave's truck. When we had decided that we were finished up in the apartment, we walked back down through the house to get our equipment from the basement area. That's when we realized, as we carried the equipment out to Dave's truck, that everything outside was dry. Now, we had heard a pouring rain beating against the roof of the apartment while we were up there, but there was not a drop that had spilled outside. What type of phenomena this may have been, we don't know. Some combination of Herb's malice, some combination of the pain of the victims, perhaps. At this point, we are still investigating. Thank you for watching Friday Night Ghost Frights. Please let me know what you think of our new show in the comments below. And if you have not yet, please subscribe. This is Mike Ricksecker. Until next Friday night.
$72.6.
Boom. It's just crazy.